10 years ago today, a lone cameraman came out here with a borrowed digital video camera to take a short, insignificant shot of this statue, the UCSD sun god. Today we revisit this site to point out how after 10 long years, it is still of no significance. At least, not to what you are about to see, for this show has never had anything to do with UCSD sun god. This show is really all about me. Hi, I'm Brian Uiga, and I'm that lone cameraman who came out here to videotape this statue 10 years ago. Back in 1990, when I was a freshman, I got bored out of my skull due to the lack of social life on campus, so I decided to start my own TV show. I used that shot in the credits. You see, 10 years ago, UCSD was a research school, and all of the students were stuck inside their dorm rooms all day doing math and physics. It's amazing how much things can change in 10 years. I recall. I walked in on the first quarterly meeting of SRTV, which in those days used to broadcast these lame call-in type shows similar to MTV's Loveline, but with real callers. Anyway, the station manager, Aaron Feiger, had 3 shows he wanted to get off the ground. A news show, a TRL style show, and a Tom Green style comedy show. And I thought to myself, hey, well, if Tom Green can act like an idiot and piss people off and degrade the integrity of media standards, then so can I. UCSDementia was born.
See, the early UCSDementia stuff wasn't really that funny. You know, that was before they had a lot of sketches or scripts or a lot of, editing. Basically, Brian and this guy, Justin Mock, would throw together whatever they could film in a single weekend and call that a show. Well, they did find these junior high skateboarders one time. They were trying to jump over the Price Center fountain, but then one of them, he jumped into the fountain, and that was pretty funny, and that became the show's trademark for a while. And I first got involved a little bit after that when I was on this game show hosted by Justin. That Justin was a strange fellow.
I don't know if I ever really wanted to do Tom Green style comedy in the first place. It was really just sort of thrown at me as the easiest thing to do. What I really wanted to do was documentaries. You see, I had just seen Man on the Moon, where Jim Carrey plays Andy Kaufman in a biopic, and you can see its influence on the show right from the beginning.
Our first theme song was the March Fanfare, Andy Kaufman's wrestling music. Brian, started the first show doing Kaufman's famous Saturday Night Live bit, the "Here I come to save the day," Mighty Mouse. Yeah.
At some point, I realized that since someone had already made a documentary about Andy Kaufman, I would have to create my own show full of original comedy and then create my own equivalent of Man on the Moon later. But that didn't happen. And instead I just started watching lots and lots of Kids in the Hall.
Oh, God, don't get me started about the Kids in the Hall phase. Okay. Yeah, basically, we were just doing blatant 100% rip-offs of Kids in the Hall. There was one sketch where he calls me up and says, "Greg, I've got this great idea. Okay, so Tanner is going to be listening to his answering machine, and every single message on the machine is going to be a different woman saying, oh, Tanner, I thank you for the great sex, and then at the end, this light from above is going to shine down upon him, and I thought, hey, that's pretty cool, and then I was watching TV and I discovered that entire sketch, word for word, had been done by Mark McKinney, and then I look back on all the other things I'd done. Like I did a tapeworm swimming past a bunch of floating donuts, and I did a couple lighting effects, and then there was this one bit where I had Stephanie being attacked by UFOs in an Independence Day ripoff, and I realized that I'd become a hack. And I'm not even getting paid.
despite questionable artistic integrity, I mean, one good thing to come out of this whole Kids in the Hall obsession was this band that we threw together called Narcotic Casserole. We covered this song from the Kids in the Hall movie Brain Candy live in the Price Center. But see, the funny thing was that we played it really badly on purpose. Yeah, that was cool.
I realized that we needed some fresh ideas, so we decided to wean off the Kids in the Hall obsession. And this was great because it gave us this artistic freedom, you know? The only problem is that most of what we produced then wasn't generally that funny. But that didn't stop us, because with no one reviewing the show, we could do whatever we wanted, no matter how stupid it was.
When are these fucking douchebags gonna get over that they used to suck? They still do! This is lame.
No matter how stupid it was. From that point on, UCSDementia really started getting in stride. This is where we started having fun. After that, unique sketches followed one after the other. In fact, I think you'll find that most of the cast's favorite sketches come from this period in dementia time.
The computer sketch was one of my favorites from the early days. I mean, I could be biased because I co-wrote it. You see, it's about this girl, and she's writing a paper. Oh, that's so funny.
Well, actually, I didn't like any of the sketches that I was in. Well, actually, there was this one where Brian and the other Brian and I were acting as if we were putting a equipment for New Year's, and God spoke to us both, and he kept zapping Brian, the other Brian, because he kept on asking stupid questions.
I think I've seen this in Touched by the Angel or something!
My first sketch of the show was a generic conversation sketch. It's very dense. You would probably have to watch it 2 or 3 times to really get it. I think the unusual and seemingly random, but actually very well written writing was made it appeal to me. You see, I like it when a subtle or simple point is made under superhuman quantities of hyperbole.
First, Greg started out, that was the first scene, walking along this hallway with one of his books. And this is my room.
You know, I don't really have any good memories because I wasn't in a whole lot of sketches. I mean, I had some fun with the special effects though, like the Grape Expectorations clip. I took a bunch of weird random clips that nobody was going to use and put them together into a mock-up vintage film. At the time, as I recall, Holly and Clay had this really weird fruit fetish thing going on, and they weren't keeping very good track of their videotapes.
It was really interesting for me to watch as over the course of a few years, dementia went from this little narcissistic project I did to fill my weekends to a fully fledged sketch comedy show with complete cast and union problems, media censorships, and factions.
I spent a lot of time working with Brian in the early years, and he never seemed to run out of bad ideas. I would tell him every day, Brian, that's a terrible idea. You should do this. To which he would say,
No, Tanner. I like to fail. I want my life to be for nothing. I look forward to my aged years when I can ponder the futility of my existence and retrospect on all the dismal failures I have propagated with the help of my conspicuously absent creative ability.
and I would say, wow, Brian, that's the first funny thing that you said. To which he would say,
Shut up, Tanner. You don't know what comedy is.
and I think it's this attitude that really made dementia what it was and what it became.
Ah, nature, an unceasing wonder of complex beauty and noble simplicity, so distant from the modern college experience. Hi, I am here standing outside my apartment from my sophomore year of college. Of course, there's some new students living here now, because that was 10 years ago. But they've agreed to let us do some filming, so let's go inside and take a look. Man, this brings back memories. I guess not much changes in 10 years. Look at this. This is the hallway where we filmed the horror film sketch where first Greg started out, that was the first scene, walking along this hallway with one of his books. And this is my room. Look at this. They've even got it set up the exact same way that we used to. The bunks here, Desks over there. I guess it's hard to be creative in a room this size. I even had a guitar, just like that one. One of those Dan Electros, very nice. Look in here. Walking along this hallway, this reminds me of doing the what if you were a jerk sketch, because basically I just walked along this hallway being followed by a camera. Over here, this is the table where we had the computer set up for the second possessed computer sketch.
Whoa, Brian, you mixing uppers again?
And this kitchen right here, this is where we did the spam commercial, the one that was written by a lizard, where Derek ends up at the end licking this refrigerator. I don't think I need to demonstrate that. It looks a little grimy. It's not a very inspiring place. In fact, it reminds me a little bit of a prison cell. But, you know, what can you do? It's home. Oh, the commercial.
Well, it's this show about me and the other me. And there are 14 more of them. You can just imagine the hijinks.
You kissed my boyfriend during chemistry class, didn't you? You're setting yourself up for a 22-minute trial of our friendship.
Did not.
Did too?
Did not. Did too.
Come on, you two. I wish I'd never created you from the deep recesses of my subconscious.
But despite all of that, I'm just a normal girl trying to deal with whatever life throws at me. Hey there, handsome.
You don't look so bad yourself.
Uh-oh, it's time for therapy again.
Most people would consider it in bad taste to advertise for an insane asylum on television. But we've gone crazy! At Happy Acres, we're lowering the prices on the best full-service sanatorium in the greater La Jolla area! You're not gonna find deals like this anywhere else! Starting as low as $25 a month for the first 3 months! To beat this deal, you'd have to consider euthanasia! I know rates this low are shocking! But a deal this low can't last forever, so hurry before I commit myself for offering such a crazy deal! Kill me. Happy Acres is located just minutes off the 5 in beautiful, therapeutic Escondido.
Once the show was up and running smoothly, I decided to do a show with the kind of material that would take too much time to fit into the time constraints of the academic quarter. So I petitioned to have UCSD change over to the semester system. When that fell through, I considered changing schools. By the following fall, I was enrolled in the University of North Carolina. 3 weeks later, I realized the rest of my cast was in San Diego, so I returned. I still was pressed for time, so I decided we should start filming during the summertime. And the first summer show we did, called Dementia Medium Rare, or sometimes just The Summer Show, took all summer to film, which is why we called it, you get the idea. It didn't have any shots of the sun god in it.
Ah, the infamous summer show. Now, that was a trip. You know, Brian had just gotten back from his 2-week bus tour of Europe, and you know, he had this whole armful of notes for the show he wanted to do. A perfect show in every way. Unfortunately, no one, including Brian himself, could read these notes, you know, with the bouncing on the bus and what, oh my god! So we eventually just threw it out and put some random junk in its place.
I've been watching a lot of Monty Python's Flying Circus, and I was inspired by the way random sketches were spliced together through connecting bits so that the action never stopped. So I decided to do that.
Medium rare was well done. That was funny. It wasn't funny? Can't you just edit it out?
Medium Rare was a blast, except for all the brainstorming and writing, prop building, filming, editing, watching the finished product, autographs on eBay. That was all tedious.
It was funny. It was very funny. Okay, what do you want me to say? Okay, so there are these scenes where the repressed housewife lights the dinner on fire, and we didn't really have anything to put out the fires with, so after 5 takes, we had 5 burning pots, and they're just kind of waiting around to cause trouble, and they did.
Yeah, I was there when the house burned down. We just realized the kitchen had caught fire, so we're all frantically running around to finish filming on location before the firefighters arrived. So all those points where I appear to be calmly telling 50s housewives how to live a life of no self-esteem, I'm actually panicking because at that point the carpet had caught fire and people were running around and screaming, and I think at that point the cat had melted, but we just kept going. And in fact, if you watch the sketch, you can see it if you know what to look for.
So Jim finished up his narration bit, and the firefighters arrived. So we just explained to them we were doing an expository on 50s housewives and how they had no rights and we needed burning pots. And they didn't believe us. So Jim said, "Don't worry, officers, we were just exploding M80s inside the house, and one of them went awry."
So the fireman says, "Gee, that's too bad. You really should be careful when playing with fireworks." And we all have a good laugh about that until the roof caves in and everyone's running around yelling, "Ah, help me, I'm on fire!" And the firemen were really good about it. They got everyone and the cameras out, and they were really nice and didn't even report it because we promised never to do it again. But we fooled them because we didn't even have fireworks, and we never said we'd stop filming sketches.
You know, it's really a good thing that we finished all of the filming before the house burned down. Because there was this one scene we did with the robot in a kitchen. And if we had had to reprogram that robot for another location, boy, howdy.
Apparently, Jim had built the thing for a science project, but after only getting second place, he was about to destroy it, until Brian said that he needed an extra robot for the Mystery Science Theater movie. So we gave it a new case out of candy-colored plastic to match the designs of Crow T. Robot and Tom Servo. And there you go. But between you and me, that thing was nasty.
Well, I actually had to reprogram it 3 times. The first time was for its original plan as a mad scientist robot, which was cute but really evil. You know how that didn't work.
Right, the coding was a nightmare for that one.
Right, so I had to completely reprogram his lines and give him a more Disney villain type of charisma. After the MST3K show, I put him in a closet for about a year, then took him out, dusted him off for another show. Then I reprogrammed him for a Demonicus breakfast sketch.
So of that whole Demonicus breakfast bit, my favorite part that I thought was the cleverest, was when he was looking through the cookbook to try and make muffins. And I always thought that they'd use strings to turn pages from one to the next, but Jim told me that they actually installed little micro fans inside of his arms that worked like little vacuums, and he turned the pages all by himself. Amazing.
But by that time the hardware was about a year old, and it started rejecting every program in inopportune moments.
Toast.
Toast.
We're lucky we could sew your arm back on in time.
You're telling me. Well, here, let me go boot him up and we'll get an interview ready for your documentary.
Personally, I just liked it when he says muffins.
You got it! He's answering the questions.
Let the interview begin.
Can you get him to say anything else?
I'm working on it.
Remember what happened last time you started doing this?
Well, Medium Rare was the first time that I went on the TV show. I sat in a corner and I talked about cereal. I didn't get to talk about lettuce because I like lettuce, but it wasn't on the paper that I read off of. I like lettuce. Do you like lettuce? I like lettuce. I also like going on the news show and playing with the distortion pedals. It was fun, and I smile a lot, but some guy named Andy did it before, but it was fun. You want to know what I had for lunch?
What's going on?
Oh, man.
We ran out of interviews.
Pancakes!
Derek, can you get a ham, please?
Hey, where's that music coming from?
Just sort of follows the robot around while he's in breakfast mode. Programming flaw I tried to pass off as intentional during filming.
You're done. No, don't stop. No,
I was trying to make pancakes. But we don't have any pancake mix.
Oh dear.
Oh! Oh dear what?
What? No pancakes.
What's it doing now? The lack of pancake mix is corrupting its breakfast program. Reprogram it. I can't. It's rejecting everything I'm trying to do.
Where is it now? I don't know. Here, let me activate the demonic cam.
It appears to have reverted back to its original programming.
Maybe you just want some pancakes.
Run for it!
Sure, it's all fun and games till someone gets hurt. Luckily, no one did. Except the house. But that's not a person, technically. See, it's just going back to the normal slapstick mode.
It's getting away.
We'll never catch him now.
It's no good. I have no control. I can't stop it.
You have to.
What's it doing now?
Oh no.
Is that thing doing what I think it's doing?
I'm afraid so.
What movie did you program this thing with?
Godzilla vs. Megalon.
Ah! What's that?
Tonari Gojira wa yoko kyako desu ne.
Why are you speaking Japanese?
Still coming!
To grab
No.
What? What is it?
Looks like the demonic has found IU bargain.
That's not IU bargain.
Hey, what?
Statue! Stupid.
As an international ski championship, I use every advantage. I'm not going to let myself worry about chapped lips. I use car stick.
Don't you have any friends to play with? No. Get some friends, loser.
Why can't I have any friends?
Probably because you have zero social skills and can't deal with the third dimension. But don't worry about that, because now there's Virtual Friend.
Wow, I have a friend now.
That's right, Virtual Friend. It's your bestest friend in a box.
Would you like to play a game?
You can take your virtual friend all kinds of places, like the beach.
Do I look ugly in a swimsuit?
No, of course not, friend.
Virtual friend, I need somebody to talk to on important life issues.
Well, for that, you will need the Virtual Parents expansion pack, sold separately.
Oh. Mom, can I have $39.95?
It's fun. It's easy.
See, I do have a friend.
Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I need a friend too.
No, get your own.
Virtual Friend. If you haven't got one, then you don't have any friends.
Well, I'm on my way. I don't know where I'm going.
Ah, the memories. I still remember them. Looking back through all this old footage, I'm reminded of all the crazy shenanigans on camera and behind the camera, because behind the camera is just as important as in front of the camera. I know. In fact, I got my start in drama working behind the scenes. I was in charge of a local community theater group's prop and set division, and in fact, I had a lot of experience building props for my own purposes as well. Like this umbrella, for example. I built this modeled on an umbrella seen in the TV series Doctor Who. I'm really surprised it's held up so well over all the years. I mixed a unique color of red paint for it, so that I could always tell it apart in a group of prop replicas. And in fact, it's a good thing because it was stolen once, years ago, and I ended up spotting it halfway down Library Walk. This guy was holding it, seemed to be filming some kind of documentary interview, and I was running up to grab the thing from him when I was attacked by our Demonicus robot. It's a long story. Anyway, enough about BBC productions and copyrighted umbrella designs. This next section is about the cast of UCSDementia and how each of them does their part to make the show look good, even though we have no crew whatsoever.
The first scene I was in was about a mugging. Kyle was supposed to jump out of nowhere, exchange a few one-liners, and walk off hand in hand. And then all of a sudden, this guy jumps out of nowhere and starts actually trying to mug me. I mean, the stranger actually tried to mug me, but with a bread knife. I managed to talk my way out of it, but all the time, Brian and Holly were just standing behind the camera, acting scared, didn't do anything to help me.
Okay, so what we did is we set Rachel up with a cast member who she'd never met before and who would actually mug her and force her to get out of it.
And I'm getting my life threatened. Granted, it was with a bread knife, but I'm getting my life threatened, and all those bastards did was sit back and film it all. I just don't get those guys.
But that was only half the setup. We wanted to create a comedic situation in which someone turned to crime in order to pay for a college education. You know, symbolism for the manipulation that goes on behind the scenes by the regents.
So, we got Derek to break into Tanner's bank account a week before tuition was due and steal all of his money. And Tanner didn't want to tell his parents, so he was forced into a life of crime just to stay in school.
I hate what happened. I was used. but not for sex, which would have been fun. No. I was just used.
I couldn't believe the realism that you were bringing to the piece. We got some great footage. And the best part is, Tanner wasn't even a good mugger, so we got the comedic ending we wanted to.
I'm not proud of the things I did. I'm even less proud that my mugging didn't even work.
It worked so well that we tried using the same tactic again with Steph, only she wasn't too fooled. By this time, Tanner had become so delusional that he was starting to spout random phrases about things like definite integrals in an attempt to scare her out of her money.
What's the definition of a definite integral?
I don't know. The whole thing was pretty stupid. But on the other end, it was pretty funny. But it wasn't pretty. Not at all.
I would sue them, since I still haven't gotten any of my money back. But on the other hand, when they explained to me how it was all just a big joke, I just had to laugh, you know. Oh, God, those guys.
Not that acting always works out so well like that, because it doesn't always work out so well like that. Like the mugging sketch.
Casting? You mean who plans who plays what? No wonder I never get any speaking roles. I wonder who's in charge of that.
I am. I do everything.
Ask anyone on UCSDementia who runs things behind the scenes, and you'll get the same answer. Derek. Because Derek does everything.
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 Derek does everything. I mean, I don't even know the guy, but he sure does everything.
Derek does everything.
I do everything. Well, I guess Derek does some things.
I don't know how that crazy cat manages to do everything.
Stop dwelling on it. I'm trying to be modest.
Why?
Because I said so.
Okay.
Anyhow, there is some other stuff that I'm not directly involved in.
Such as?
Filmmaking.
I see.
I like to call myself a filmmaker. Yeah, I met Brian, the ringleader of this craziness, one random day at the media center. Yeah, I mentioned I needed an actor for one of my films, and he volunteered. Sucker. Yeah, several projects later, I thought it might be fun to be in something of his. So I went to a Dementia meeting.
I'd always been a bit worried about his filming projects. Seems like they always turned into the same thing.
Porno! I want to make porno! As a filmmaker, I'd be interested in directing in the adult film industry. I want to make porno!
Yeah! Finally this is getting good!
As a filmmaker, I'd be interested in directing in the adult film industry. Those guys get so much. What? Come on, this is the only thing your college audience will ever care about. I mean, just saying the word booty raises your viewership by 50%. Booty, booty, booty.
We're trying to keep this a documentary, not a pornomentary. So, Derek, are there any other behind-the-scenes issues that we have to talk about?
Nothing really.
Can I say something here?
No.
Oh.
Shh. Don't whine.
Well, we do have the studio tour.
Okay, well, we'll do that then.
Sounds good.
Now this is where it all happens. Looks like they're filming something in here already. We'll have to keep our voices down. Anyways, you can see it's really a very small space in here, but through the magic of filming, we've managed to do a variety of sketches in here. You can see this corner that they have set up over here. We've managed to do 45 different sketches in that corner alone, just by rearranging it, and you'd never expect that it was all in the same place. This over here, this is our editing room. In this room, we can do any kind of editing or special effects that we need. Anything from crossfades to temporal misalignments and even digital cloning.
This isn't very interesting, is it? Anyway, you can see this is over here. This is our equipment closet. This may not look like much, but this is top of the line professional level cameras and microphones. And UCSDementia really owes a lot of its success to the high level of equipment that we were able to use over the years. You know, this studio is really a lot more significant than it comes across here. It's really a part of what makes UCSDementia what it is. Hey.
Ralph Lauren. Smell exactly like your neighbor.
Not every myth is a mystery. Not every future is foretold. Not all that is silent is secrecy. Not every story is told. Until now. 10 years ago, one of the most overhyped television shows of all time mysteriously fell apart. All that survived was a documentary produced during that last month of the show's existence. Now, the survivors return to the public eye in a final attempt to explain what really happened when that infamous documentary was made. You've seen the show. You've heard the stories about it. Now, see the story about that story. This
is that story.
Is that story.
I'm filling in for Brian. This is the next bit. Go. He's worse than when I overdosed on Cheerios. Brian gave me a little monologue to read because he had the runs. Although it is very well to talk about the technicalities of filming, the real dementia of UCSDementia is in the dementia, and it is this which we hope to give some insight into in the forthcoming section. Thank you. Thank you.
I
think that what really makes dementia good is that Brian Uiga is a truly dysfunctional person. He'll get some lame idea and just go with it, no matter how much we all tell him it's lame. Case in point, hippie with a speech impediment. What is that? I mean, he thinks that just because Andy Kaufman did something, it's automatically cool.
The essence of UCS dementia? Oh, it's social commentary. It's all of it. It's like take in the Mr. Rambler sketches. I have the character Sock. It's a talking piece of footwear, but it's on someone's hand. And more than that, it's actually a hood of a Grim Reaper costume. And so we've got an image of fear being translated into an image of footwear, being translated into an image of happiness. And also I think that the IU bargain, playing Rambler and talking about terrorism and media deception, that was important too, I guess, but I think that was over most people's heads.
What is the question? What is the question that drives us? We have long asked ourselves, ever wonder? And come up empty. I think that what lies behind the obvious jokes and the poorly written monologues of UCS dementia is an insatiable desire to gain some understanding about ourselves and the world around us. It is truly a philosophical exploration.
Well, it's really amazing to think, in retrospect, of all the work that I've done. My relentless devotion to detail, my brilliant comedic ideas, my support for the cast and crew. I was like a father figure to them. I mean, whenever they needed something from me, all they had to do was ask.
Yes!
It's ask, not ass. Prepositional question, not booty.
Yes!
Can I throw this guy a bone?
Well,
Okay, look. When I was editing the hour-long episode, right there, on the editing table, I had wild, passionate sex with all of the female cast members. Yeah. And some of the male ones.
And you'll note, this was not one of the cases where I did everything.
I'm gonna have to rewrite this whole section.
When I started Dementia, the show was already up in it was already in full effect. The one thing I noticed is that it wasn't as demented as it was cracked up to be. I wanted it to be more demented.
What is the question? What is the question that drives?
So, almost immediately after I joined, before the first show I was in even aired, I started thinking about what could be done with a small group of silly college students with no money, a bunch of cameras, and I came up with the idea of the fundamentalist dementia movement. From the English, to return to the fundamental dementia.
It's all about the dementia. Do you understand me, mortal?
What is the question?
I remember the first project that I started working on. After I joined, I went through and I watched all of the shows that had been made previous to my signing on. And I remember being very inspired by the Making of sketch, and the Confessions of a Sugar Junkie. What I really liked is the way the standard format of the documentary was altered, and all of these layers were added, and you never really figured out what was going on until the very end.
Due to poor
audience reviews, the remainder of this documentary has been remixed in a style more suitable for American viewers. Ow! Move! The tapes! You'll understand it now. What? Are you okay? What happened to my tapes? But they were in order already. Put one in the VCR.
How does it work?
You hit the button that looks like a big arrow.
They all look like big arrows.
It's a special arrow.
Hello and welcome. The brilliant but enigmatic dictator Don Salsa once said that for every man there are other able men. Just so, for every great story, there's an even greater story that lies behind it, as it were. The retelling of past events in an informational tone has been used since Peter Graves' childhood to fill late-night cable television, and the documentary, as it is often called, has been refined to such an art that a decent story may come of a story behind a story. This is that story.
Well, the whole thing was pretty complicated. At first, I remember when Clay, who just started, wanted to make this, I had this idea of a mock UCSDementia documentary, and it was such a big project that we wanted to film ourselves filming it for posterity.
We basically had to choreograph everything, including the motions of the cameramen. And while this isn't really anything special, I mean, it's status quo for an action film, we're just filming the interviews for a documentary, and the whole thing just seemed dumb to me.
Well, the hardest part about filming the filming of the documentary was not getting in the way of filming the documentary itself. As you can imagine, having twice as many cameras for any given scene made staying out of the scene of the actual documentary that you were filming a challenge. And on top of everything else, there were always problems behind the scenes that had to be covered up on the fly.
It is due to the hard work through hard times. The show eventually became the world-famous production company that it is now.
I don't really know any of these guys, really. I was just wandering around with my camcorder videotaping planter boxes, and I saw these people with way too many cameras, so I followed them around. I'm good at that.
Well, during the filming, we had to waste a lot of good footage on all these different camera angles. I mean, it was like home movies, you know? The kind of stuff that you stick on the shelf and never watch again. It was mostly people doing second and third takes, getting caught up in station politics.
The biggest challenge was getting the thing finished on time. There wasn't any real problem with any station politics or anything. I mean, honestly, how much drama can you expect from a volunteer closed-circuit TV show? It just seems kind of random and contrived because all the good parts were cut out of later drafts. A scene which questions the very nature of all human existence using humor to educate its audience? Too wordy. Plastic robots imitating Godzilla? Oh yes, keep that. People love puppets.
The only reason it's random and contrived is because it was my idea. I wanted it to be convoluted. The only way to make the project justified was to make it funny, otherwise no one would watch it. And of course, the whole thing is hysterical on many levels, and of course most of the humor is, like the plot itself, very dense and convoluted, you know, and the whole thing with robots dancing around and imitating Godzilla, and you know, that's just random sight gags for viewers like you, who are unable to see the latent humor in monologues like these. You don't get it? Well, look. When IU Bargain says anything at all, it's funny, right? Well, if you learn to perceive everything in the right light, then theoretically everything can be funny. But you don't want to learn how to do that, do you? Well, neither do we. Even so, whenever critics accuse me of writing bad humor, I just start explaining my theories to them, and they usually get up and leave or fall asleep or something. Either way, problem solved.
Ah, nature, an unceasing wonder of complex beauty and noble simplicity, so distant from the modern
Despite
college
conflicting
experience.
reports, the general consensus is that dementia continued to prosper, and the underground rumors were only rumors, nothing more. And conflicting press reports were also to be ignored. The whole thing had an air of carelessness typical of college students.
Well, at some point, the whole thing just fell apart at the seams. And you know whose fault it was? It was Clay.
Yeah, I mean, this documentary is proof of a new, stronger dementia cast. United and stronger. Ultimately, my goal of fundamental dementia was reached.
What?
Tensions rose due to the constraints of time and money. At times it seemed as if the only thing that held the show together was the cast's devotion and teamwork.
My job, basically, was to ensure that nothing being filmed at one level would conflict with something being filmed at another level. Unfortunately, due to our minimal budget and a few recalcitrant actors, this was impossible to do in a couple of shots.
Well, I suppose Holly did a lot of work setting up sets and things and adding stuff to the shots, but it always seemed like she was trying to keep certain items out of view, like my umbrella, for instance. I got this thing at a garage sale from Clay, and I thought it was really unique, so I wanted to use it in my interviews as a prop. But I was always losing it, and somehow Holly would find it afterwards, and I could never figure out why.
I know why.
Oh, the commercial.
Seems like we might have problems here. How did that go?
Taken care of.
Okay, good, thank you.
The whole thing had an air of carelessness typical of college students. Or a grand conspiracy of universal design, whose aims were unknown, yet whose effects were most definitely being felt as tremors within the fabric of space and time itself. Okay, that's just taking it too far. You've got to be kidding me.
Well, they didn't seem to mind, so I filmed them filming the filming, and I got it all on tape on my camcorder. And it's really long and kind of boring. Actually, it's really boring.
Oh, please, it's just a college TV show, for crying out loud.
Well, they seem like really friendly people, at least to me. They weren't very nice to each other, though. Or to this other guy who was following them around, but he didn't have a camera. He seemed kind of weird. I didn't like him.
That's enough!
Well, I think that sums it up pretty much, so bye.
Wait, hold on. Well, I thought you were an established member of the cast. Weren't you in the summer show and a couple of other things?
What? No. Yes, well, they talked me into joining the group, but I was already after I'd filmed them, like I said with my camcorder, twice, and they just filmed themselves just talking. They didn't even dance around or anything, and there was this one guy who was a normal guy like me, except there were 3 of him, and I was one of them.
One of him?
Yes, one of the group, but I mean, they got upset because I filmed the wrong thing.
Can you explain?
Well, they wanted to do a tour of a studio, and the one guy, the weird guy, he didn't. So I followed them in with my camcorder, and I placed it down on a shelf so I could do a magic trick. I'm really good at magic. Do you want to hear some? Shh. Do you want to see some magic?
No, not now.
Well, I'm really good at magic, you see. It's Roktor. He's a little alien friend, and he's a kung fu highlighting alien. Rawr, rawr. Oops. So,
Can you explain what you said earlier about filming the wrong thing?
well, I mean, the other guy and... Can you keep it down? We're trying to film an interview in here.
That's a very interesting story, Mr. Bargain. Can we see the footage for that?
Welcome to my documentary, and I'm IU Bargain, and this is my documentary. That's all I have to say. Yes, one of the group. This is our but, I mean, they got upset because I filmed the wrong thing.
Can you explain?
Well, they wanted to do a tour of a studio, and the one guy, the weird guy, he didn't. So I followed them in with my camcorder, and I placed it down on a shelf so I could do a magic trick. Hey, I'm really good at
can
magic.
I?
Anyway, do you want to hear some? Shh. Do you want to?
When do you guys?
See some magic over here?
No.
Well, I'm really good at magic. You see.
This is my magic trick, and he's Roktor, and he's a little alien friend. Rawr, and he's a kung fu. Oops.
So.
Don't listen to Clay. I can explain everything. He.
Well,
Shit.
I mean, the other guy. Can you keep it down? We're trying to film an interview in here.
That's a very interesting story.
I thought I told Holly to get rid of that guy. Can we,
Well, I think that sums it up pretty much, so bye. You know, on second thought, we really don't look that much alike.
think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wanna watch something?
What do you got?
Andy Kaufman, Monty Python, Kids in the Hall.
I've seen all those.
Figures.
It's on TV. UCSDementia.
This is a rerun. I hate reruns. Yeah. 10 years ago today, a lone cameraman came out to this site.
What? Once the show was up and running smoothly, I decided... Yeah, that was Brian on crack.
Not that acting works. Not that acting always works so well like that. I mean, like, I've forgotten my fake line, and that's sad.
If you notice, every single shot I've ever shot, I've always had a cheat sheet. I've never had to memorize a line for dementia.
We're rolling. I couldn't believe the realism the two were bringing to the piece.
Oh, the pool parties were amazing. the female cast, topless, the male cast, bottomless. They look up to me.
I'm getting my life threatened, and all those bastards do was just sit back and film it all. I just don't get those guys.
Is that fixable?
Shit!
And a style more suitable for American viewers. Move!
What's your problem? Just drink video.
Ow! Move! 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 We had our.
Okay. The mark is not.
Your burger boy, I started the third line without saying the second line.
Actually, I did.
Plastic robots imitating Godzilla. I have to sneeze. Oh my god, I'm sorry.
We should attach the back of his head back.
Hey, what the?
Slapstick mode.